Jay here for Stretford, Paddock, and we've gone live with a bit of breaking news. Reports out of Italy suggesting that Erik Ten Hag is set to be sacked at the end of this season. Myself and Joe Smith, who's going to be joining me any second, going to have a chat about this. We're going to try and get through all this and get into the nuts and bolts because there's a little bit of confusion here because there's a website that's done an interview with Gianluca Di Marzio. You may remember him. He used to be Fabrizio Romano before Fabrizio Romano was the GOAT. It then became, it was Gianluca Di Marzio. An interview with him where he says Erik Ten Hag will be sacked at the end of the season. Now, the reason I say there's a little bit of confusion and intrigue is no one else is really reporting this. When someone like Di Marzio says that, you think that everyone would be all over it. But Ornstein, Romano, Mitten, all the sort of go-to tier one journalists, so you think they'd have news on this, they'd be reporting this as well, aren't saying anything. And even Di Marzio himself has done several tweets since this interview, and he hasn't mentioned Erik Ten Hag. So we're going to get into that, discuss what's going on, see who's saying what, and go through this article. So make sure you are joining us in the chat and the comments and let us know, not just whether you think this is true or not, whether you want it to happen. Do you want to see Erik Ten Hag gone at the end of the season? We know there's a lot of managers available now. Marzio Pochettino, of course, is available. We know that Roberto Di Zerbi is available. Others as well as Tuchel. There's one or two others that are available that could be looked at as potential successors to Erik Ten Hag. So we'll be getting into all that. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Joe is here.
Hello.
Mr. Smith,
yes,
my dear friend. This is all a bit confusing because it's not open and shut where you go, well, Di Marzio said it, it's happening, which is what we would have done a few years ago, because he's not tweeted it. He's obviously said it in this interview, which is as good as him saying it, but he's not tweeted it. And in the past, when one of the top journalists says something, the others follow suit and at least comment on it. At least say this isn't true, or we're trying to get this verified. No one's mentioning it.
No,
it's weird.
Yeah, we'll get into that as well because I want to look at why, if it is true, that Di Marzio might be the only person to have this story. Okay. We'll get into that in just a minute. But I want to look at sort of the overall what's gone on so far of the whole situation. So let's start first of all around an hour or so ago when there first started to be tweets, people quoting this tweet. Quoting an article in a publication called Soccer News NL, which is a Netherlands-based publication that were reporting and to have a interview with Di Marzio. Okay. So sometimes when we see these things, and we've seen it in the past, we saw it a lot with the Qatar Ineos back and forth, where you would see someone quoting a story and then you click on that story and then that story is quoting another source and you click on that and then it goes back and all of a sudden reports suggest is actually the origin of this story and there is no report that it's linking to. This isn't like that. This is, unless Soccer News NL, which I'm not particularly au fait with in terms of their reliability, but they have a full interview with Di Marzio himself. Right. They aren't quoting someone else. They aren't talking about reports suggest. They have a sit-down interview with a number of quotes from him on different topics. Okay. So unless they fabricated this whole interview, then Di Marzio has at least said what we think he said, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So that's the first starting point here. So what he supposedly said, or what this interview has quoted him as saying to them directly, first-hand interview, is Manchester United is looking for the successor of Ten Hag. At the end of the season, United says goodbye to Ten Hag. He says, but what is certain, later on he said, but what is certain, they say goodbye to Ten Hag, right?
So that's pretty unequivocal, isn't it? That's like, he's going.
There's no uncertainty there, is there?
No, and obviously the phraseology is slightly, probably not what me and you would say, but say goodbye to Ten Hag, it doesn't mean that we're saying goodbye to him while he goes on a break before he comes back for pre-season. Yeah. He's done. He's gone. They're getting rid of him.
Yeah, and there's a few things to look at. Obviously, get your thoughts in the comments. I know a lot of people are saying that this isn't true, and I'm not saying we don't know if it is. No. And we don't know even if Di Marzio has said it, whether it's true or not. But it does appear that Di Marzio has said it. Yeah. There are some very strange sort of irregularities to this story. One is that Di Marzio hasn't put it out on his own social media himself.
Which is bizarre because his phone and notifications must be going crazy right now. Yeah. And there's no way he hasn't noticed this interview he's given is in danger of breaking the internet. Of course. So he must have seen that everyone is talking about him, everyone is asking if this is true, everyone is quoting the interview he's given. Yeah. And yet he's not replied or responded to it in any way, shape or form.
And this isn't just, this website as well is running this as an exclusive latest news. It's sort of on their banner as one of their main stories today, this soccernews.nl. So they're not it's not some little thing that someone's rooted out from 2 months ago. It's not something that's gone under the radar with a mistranslation. They are putting this as their breaking news, as an exclusive. The headline, which is a Google Translate, is "End of exercise for Erik Ten Hag." Erik Ten Hag is still currently the head coach at Manchester United, but Gianluca Di Marzio tells Soccer News NL that the man's tenure at Old Trafford will come to an end after the current football season. According to the Italian, that decision has already been made a long time ago. So that's the first clue, though, that we need to look into, I think, that a decision has been made a long time ago, which then you start to think, okay, maybe he's basing this on old information, because he's not saying, I've learned in recent days.
Yeah.
He's saying that the decision has been made a long time ago. That he could have learnt that recently.
Yeah.
But you would assume that if this was true, someone would have known about it in the time between it being a long time ago and now, wouldn't you? Like obviously there's a handful of journalists that if they say it, you assume it's true. Romano's still on that list.
Yeah.
Ornstein, Laurie Whitwell, people from the BBC. A handful of journalists at the Times or at the Telegraph, when they say it's true, and none of them have ran this, even though apparently the decision had been made a long time ago.
Do you know what's weird though? Not that none of them have ran it, that none of them have commented on it.
Yeah.
None of them have said this isn't true, fake news, or that's not what I'm hearing, or anything. They're just sort of ignoring it.
Yeah.
Like it's not happened. And again, you put it out upstairs, and I think you spot on, every single journalist who covers Manchester United, and then basically every single journalist who covers football, will be trying to get this stood up, will be going to their sources, will be contacting the club, contacting agents, contacting anyone they know who's got a connection to Manchester United and going, is this true? Is this happening? Because Manchester United changing the manager is the biggest story in football. It just is.
Yeah.
So everyone will want to comment on it one way or the other and go, look, this ain't happening, this is a mistranslation, it's nonsense or whatever, or Di Marzio's got it wrong, or they'll go, yeah, he's right, it is, I've just got this stood up. No one's saying anything.
No.
It's like it's not happened, which is just bizarre.
Yeah,
because he's sorry, go on.
Yeah, because Gianluca Di Marzio, for those who don't remember, if you've been, depending on how long you've followed sort of football in the internet era, he was one of the first true sort of tier one guys, wasn't he? Probably a decade or so ago now. He was the guy, I think, in the sort of Matteo Darmian to Manchester United era, where I think he was in the room. He took a picture of Darmian signing the contract, the pre-contract.
He was like the Beatles, where Romano became Wings.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So he was the original or one of the original international transfer journalists.
Yeah.
And then he had a handful of sort of errors and mistakes in a row that kind of pushed him down the pecking order. You saw them people.
You can't get a mistake in this game.
No,
you can't make any mistakes.
But what is still the case, though, is that he's still rated highly for Italian news.
Yeah.
And he's still rated even relatively highly for just general transfer news. He's not the top dog anymore.
No.
He's not in that top echelon, but he's not someone who's known for just making shit up.
No.
And one angle on this that I think we should discuss is Roberto De Zerbi, which is he's just left Brighton. There are some reports that he's signed an agreement with another club.
Yeah.
That there's been a payment or some kind of payment between that club and Brighton. A compensation has already been agreed to of around £4 million. We don't know who that is. That story itself could also be bullshit.
Yeah.
But if we're to try and find a way where Di Marzio might know this before anyone else, perhaps an Italian manager or a manager who's managed a lot in Italy and is Italian, having this mysterious new club around him, maybe that could be the angle there. Do you think that could be something that he knows De Zerbi, he knows De Zerbi's people, and he's heard it through that? And instead of being able to say directly they want De Zerbi, he's saying, well, if they're getting De Zerbi, which I know, but I'm not allowed to say, what I can say is Ten Hag won't be here. Do you think that's possible?
It's possible, right? There's three things I think are possible here. And by all means, I'd add more if I'm missing any. One, he's got it right, and he's got it from something like you said. A contact he's got that no one else has got. Yeah. Maybe it's De Zerbi, someone in De Zerbi's camp who's close to Di Marzio or who's got a relationship with Di Marzio and says, look, I've got something for you. You can't say Roberto's going to go there, but we know they're getting rid of Ten Hag because Roberto is going there.
Yeah.
But you got to keep that bit out of it because we've signed an NDA or whatever.
Yeah.
But Ten Hag, he's done. They've made that decision. So there's that. There's the idea that DiMarzio is got a source and he's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The second option is he's guessed. Or he's heard rumours and he's just ran with it.
He's gone early.
He misses being the top dog, so he's gone early. He's not really got it stood up, but he thinks, sack it, I'm going to go with it. It might be true, it might not. I've heard these rumours. I'm just going to run with it anyway.
And there's a decent chance that it could be true.
Yeah.
Without him knowing about it just yet. Yeah.
So he's said these things because he's heard enough to think, you know what, I'm going to take a punt. Logically, I think it's going to happen. I've heard these little bits and pieces. I'm going with it. I'm going to reclaim my crown as the tier one journalist of all the tier oneers.
Yeah.
And the third option is there's a miscommunication.
Yeah.
There's something that's gone wrong in terms of either he didn't say it in this interview or he didn't mean that in the interview or they've misconstrued it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean? Or they've interviewed someone who isn't DiMarzio but says he is.
Yeah.
Like,
so just
some form of miscommunication.
On that last point then, so just for full clarity, I'm going to read the full section that soccernews.nl, and this is Google translated. So obviously, I would forgive DiMarzio potentially, but also forgive me if there is a mistranslation or two in here. But I'm going to read the full thing as it is in English.
Yeah, and forgive me being on my phone, by the way.
It.
I'm just sort of, things are happening quick and fast. I'm just keeping a tab on anything that may develop.
So this is all that they say in this interview about Ten Hag and Manchester United. So it says, the Italian then shifts his focus to Man United, and they're talking about DiMarzio there, whom they're interviewing. McKenna is the man of the moment in the football world, in the world of coaches, because he's doing great at Ipswich Town. He's the number one choice at Brighton and Hove Albion, brackets to succeed De Zerbi, obviously. But he has already spoken to Manchester United. At the end of the season, United will say goodbye to Ten Hag. Then it says, Manchester United will also be looking for a new coach, and their targets are McKenna and Marzio Pochettino. De Zerbi is also on the list, but he's not been in contact with United in recent days. Apparently, the Red Devils are mainly hoping for McKenna. That was not a quote from DiMarzio, that was a quote from the article. It then goes back to a quote from DiMarzio, which says, if he goes to Chelsea, talking about McKenna, United will go for Pochettino. But what is certain, they are saying goodbye to Ten Hag. So in this article, in this interview, we've seen here, at the end of the season, United will say goodbye to Ten Hag. Then we also get, but what is certain is, they are saying goodbye to Ten Hag. And we also get Manchester United will also be looking for a new coach. That's three different ways of saying he's leaving.
Yeah.
That's, it's not one thing. Like, if it had just said United will be looking for a new coach, you could read that as, well, they're going to be looking because you don't know what will happen. Of course, United need to look and see what the options are. If it was just that, I could see the confusion. For me, I'm not saying it is true, but what I'm saying based on this, there is no way DiMarzio is saying anything other than he thinks Erik Ten Hag is about to get sacked. It would take three different incorrect translations that are worded in three different ways to all be wrong for it to not be that he's saying that. And
also, if he hasn't said that, if he has been misinterpreted or, his words taken out of context or just, there's an error, he could correct that.
Yeah.
He could come out right now and just say, that isn't what I said, or this is wrong. You remember Evra the other day where he quote tweeted something where someone had made up a quote and posted it about him saying something he didn't say about City's title win, and he just quoted it and saying, "This, I never said this." And then there was a community note saying he didn't say this, and then Mitten, I think, joined in and said, there's websites that just make stuff up because they'll get a bit of interaction, and then by the time it's taken down, they've already got some money or whatever. Mm-hmm. He could come out and say that because, like I said, everyone will be telling him.
He's literally trending.
He's trending. He's not stupid. I know he's got 1.8 million followers, so sometimes it's hard to keep up when you've got a lot of followers. But he must notice that everyone is talking about him all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And they weren't an hour ago. And I'm pretty sure it's not the article he's done on Milan's next manager or whatever.
No.
He must realise, because I'm guessing for someone that size, he's still a big,
He's got 1.8 million followers on Twitter. So he's one of the biggest journalists in the world on social media.
He's obviously got a team on his socials.
Yeah.
There's no way it's just him on his phone. He's obviously got a team on his socials, on his website. They will have spoken to him. Yeah. They will have said, look, this is going on. We need to address it. We need to tweet about it. We need to comment on it. Or if it's not true, we need to say it's not true.
Yeah, he's tweeted, I think, 3 or 4 times, potentially anywhere up to 7 times in the last hour.
It's quite curious that he's tweeted. How often does he tweet? Is that a lot for him?
No, he tweets a lot. He's tweeted almost 300,000 times. So
that's like stay on an afternoon.
Yeah, he's a tweeter. And all of his recent tweets have got people in the comments saying, what's going on?
You can't ignore
true?
that.
I mean, people are tweeting Romano, people are tweeting David Ornstein, people are tweeting Laurie Whitwell, and every other sort of top journalist, James Ducker, etc., that you would expect for this news to maybe come from if it was true. Like you said, none of them have tweeted yet. I imagine all of them are trying to find out if this is true, because that's what, of course, you would be doing. There's no way, and weirdly, Fabrizio Romano did released a live video about 45 minutes ago and didn't really mention this. So it's all a bit. I think there's a little. Someone said something. Someone stuck their head out, gone for it, and everyone else is going right. Whoever says this next has to be bang on.
Do you know what might be happening here as well?
Go on.
There might be a bit of a shutdown in terms of Manchester United and Ineos and everyone. We have got an FA Cup final in a few days' time.
That's a very good point.
They might not be willing to say anything. Even if this is true, they might just be no comment. We're not commenting on it. We're not telling you it's not true. We're not saying it's true. We're not getting involved in this 3 days before the biggest game of the season.
Yeah.
And a story that completely undermines the manager, by the way.
Which, to be fair, if that is the case, leads me to think it could be true.
Yeah.
If between now and the end of the evening, no reliable journalist comes out and at least says, I can't get this stood up, or my sources indicate, or I have no indication that if we don't get that, that is a big worry for me.
Yeah.
As someone who wants Ten Hag to stay,
100%.
and maybe I'm allowing that to sort of add fear to my thinking here. If no one denies this, when everyone knows it's been said, that would be a big worry for me.
This right, for starters, if it's true, is a massive slap in the face for Ineos. It's a massive sort of undermining of this new no more leaks and we're doing things the right way and this is a new regime and we're a grown-up football club and all the other stuff we've heard. If 3 days or whatever it is, 4 days before the FA Cup final, the biggest game of the season, the story is leaked that your manager is leaving, that you're sacking him after that game, which completely undermines him for that game.
Yeah.
He might have known it already, I presume he does, but if it's true. But he's got to go into that dressing room and do his team talk and do his tactics, do all that stuff with everyone knowing he's gone after the game, basically, including the fans, including the players, just including, all his friends and family. It completely undermines him and it makes Ineos look like the Glazers. Yeah. This is the Glazers 2.0. This is worse than the Glazers because at least the Glazers, I'm not saying he's worse than Glazers, but at least the Glazers with Van Gaal, at least we kind of knew, but it didn't break until after he'd gone. We knew Jose was coming in, didn't we? But do you know what I mean? It wasn't like that's it until after after the game.
Yeah.
But now you've got it 3 days or whatever it is before the game, and this news is breaking, and it just makes you look like business as usual at Manchester United, which isn't a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think if all the British journalists don't say anything, then I can't imagine. Can you think of a reason why no one else would report on this if it wasn't true? Like, I'm not trying to be like, if no one says anything, it must be true, because that isn't, that's not real logic there. But just in terms of what we've seen down the years, if there's a huge story that a big journalist, 1.8 million followers, puts in probably 5th or 6th in terms of football journalist followings, everyone has seen this. He didn't tweet it from that account, but he has done an interview that has said this. Just based on what you normally see, someone will comment on this evening.
Every journalist, you nailed it upstairs. Every journalist now who covers United does the same thing, right? Everyone does it. Everyone gets on the phone, contacts the club, contacts people they know, people who have been a good source for them in the past. They all message their sources and go, "Is this happening?" The first port of call will be the club. Is this, contact the club, whether that's the press office or someone at the club who's given you information in the past. Usually you just go to the press and just go, look, this story's broke. Is there anything in it?
Yeah.
They might not comment. They might say, you know, well, this is, you know, no, it's not, or this isn't true, or we're not commenting, or just ignore your email or your message. They could always sort of give you no reply whatsoever. Then you would go to someone else who, you know, has stood up stories for you in the past. Maybe it's an agent, maybe it's someone who's involved with Erik Ten Hag.
Someone from Erik Ten Hag's agency,
or
and you go, look, or whatever.
This is breaking here. What's going on? Is there any truth to this? And again, you'd get no. But if you're not getting anything, it does seem.
And also, I would assume that there's a decent chance that Fabrizio Romano has messaged Di Marzio.
Yeah.
They know each other. I think he used to work. I think Romano used to work for Di Marzio years ago.
Yeah.
They're certainly very close. They tweet and quote each other all the time. He will have spoken to him about this.
Yeah.
And he'll either be saying, get that interview taken down if that's not what you meant, or let's back it up, because, you know, and sorry to look at this through a sort of impressions lens, but Di Marzio could be getting a lot more out of this from his own personal brand if, instead of giving this huge exclusive to some Dutch publication, he was tweeting it from his own account. You would think he wouldn't want to waste those impressions and those followers and those likes. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%.
I know it's a bit cynical, but that's how it works.
This could potentially be, you know, his big sort of, not his return to the top, because obviously Romano's got 20 million followers compared to his 1.8 million, but a little sort of reminder that Di Marzio's still big in the game, and he's still got a few sort of tricks up his sleeve and all that.
Yeah.
Like, look, you know, I can still break big stories, bro.
Yeah.
I've still got it. Do you know what I mean? Don't count me out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you remember when Robbie left Take That? Yeah. And then Take That still had some hits.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Shine.
Like that kind of thing. Like, all right. You know what I mean? You might be bigger than us now, but we've still got a bit of game left in us. We've still got something
going on.
So
we're still playing at Co-op Live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Those Butlins gigs don't play themselves.
This is Di Marzio's Co-op Live.
It is.
Let's just get into some of the comments then. Edward Bamba says, big mistake if this is true. Just shows that we're going to keep going through the same managerial merry-go-round as always, despite the new owners. I tend to agree with that. The only thing I disagree with potentially is, hopefully, if it is true, which I hope it isn't, but if it is true, hopefully they will, whoever they bring in as their own guy, they will stick with for longer.
Yeah.
I think it's different. You sacking the last manager a little bit easily is one thing, but if you bring in McKenna or Pochettino or De Zerbi or whatever, hopefully we give them a proper chance, minimum 2 or 3 seasons, especially if there's been some success like there was at United last season and could be again this season. They need to give their own guy more time if that is what's happening, but I just hope that it isn't. A lot of people in the comments, of course, what's this going to be now? 6 managers in 10 years? I think so.
It's really weird, the lack of anything on this.
Yeah. Like,
even in little things, and I know this isn't a great sample size, but my group chats go off the hook when it's, I don't know, Luke Shaw's got another injury, whatever. Everyone's just going berserk. And yet, there's a few, obviously, people messaging that, but it's not going turbo like you would expect it to, one way or the other. You've just basically got people going, oh, I don't know. Doesn't, Di Marzio said it, but no one else is saying it. Yeah. So is it really happening?
I think Romano did mention it, but by the sound of it, is being quite vague. Which I know he does that. I think the big criticism of Romano is, for me, when he says something is true, I think he's almost always right. The thing with Romano that people get annoyed at now is he'll repeat the same news even when there hasn't been an update, which makes you think there has been no update, but he just doesn't know the truth sometimes, which I think people criticise him for.
I've got a theory, actually.
Go on.
I think Di Marzio
is Ten Hag.
Hates Rishi Sunak. Yeah. Thought, you're going to do your little announcement about your general election. Well, I'm going to blow that out of the water by giving an interview to a Dutch publication saying that Erik Ten Hag's leaving Manchester United. And now who's trending, bro? Yeah? Not the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. No, me.
Yes.
Boom. Yeah? That's what I think it is.
Very interesting. I think we will call it a day there.
Well, we're back later, aren't we?
Yes.
So we've got, how long have we got, Arkid? to get our ducks in a row?
We've got about 3 hours.
3 hours. Yeah, back
as
about
soon as
9.
the Europa League final ends.
Oh, is that tonight?
Yes, as soon as that ends, we'll be back live.
Is that probably 10 p.m. tonight?
10 o'clock tonight, we'll be here live, unless there's penalties, but 10 o'clock tonight, we'll be here live to go through anything that's gone on. By then, I would assume there will have been some people, even if not directly replying, giving their opinion on this story, because it's a massive one. Obviously, the future of Ten Hag is a huge thing, and, you know, like I said, the election's been called today. It may not just be the UK who's about to have a new leader come the summer.
So, I mean, do you know what? I'm still not over that break you took. I still can't get over how much I missed you.
Right, should we call it a day there? Manchester United news, of course. Reports out of Italy. Di Marzio saying that Manchester United are set to sack Erik Ten Hag. No confirmation yet. As soon as there is any confirmation or reports or replies or anything, we will be live. We will be here on Stretford Paddock. So hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, Jay, for joining me. Thank you for joining us at home. And we'll see you in a bit.